Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our last live tour of the semester. We will be still doing some virtual programming and in-person tours over the summer. So if you're someone who's looking to get to campus, please do check out our admissions website. There's a lot of ways for you to virtually and in person get a feel for what UNH is like. But today I am in Smith Hall. My name is Laura. I'm a senior sociology major, and I'm going to be joined by Pat, who is a first-year student, and he's going to be walking us around campus. So before we get started, just a few of our general reminders. The biggest one is you can always drop your questions, comments, anything you want to know more about in the chat, and we would be happy to answer those for you throughout. Don't be shy. If you want to drop right now, where you're from, what you're interested in majoring in, we would love to know a little bit more about you. And I will do my best to drop some online resources, links, images, videos, stuff like that in the chat as well. So while you're watching on YouTube, do please keep an eye on it because we will provide as much information as we can in the chat and throughout the tour. So we'll give it one more second, and I think Pat's joining us now. Hi, Pat.
Hi, Laura. How are you?
Good. How are you? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. Awesome. All right.
Oh,
Well,
this
I
is
was
so
just
exciting.
letting everyone know that's watching that they can leave their questions for us in the chat and all that good stuff. But if you want to take it away and introduce yourself, go ahead.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so a little bit about me. My name is Patrick O'Neill. I'm a first-year computer science student studying in the College of Engineering and Physical Sciences. I'm from Maynard, Massachusetts. What am I involved in? That's a really good question. Thanks, Laura. I am in, I actually was in the UNH Student Senate, but as of May 1st, now I'm in the outreach coordinator for the Student Activity Fee Committee. We oversee all the student org funding, about $1 million a year. So that's a little bit about me. Laura, did I miss anything or should I get started?
No, that sounds great. Go ahead.
Okay,
You want to
awesome.
tell us about Smith
So
Hall?
yes, yeah. So we're standing in front of Smith Hall. This is, of course, our admissions building primarily. It actually used to be a residential hall at one point in its life, but now it is home to admissions, but it's also home to 3 other student services. So we've got the student accessibility service, psychological and counseling services, and last but not least, CFAR, which stands for Center for Academic Resources. So just a little bit about each service. The student accessibility service, if you have a physical disability or need accommodations, if you break your wrist, break your leg, they can set up accommodations for you and work with your professors. And then psychological and counseling service, which I think is really important. They offer 8 therapy sessions included in your tuition and fees every year. So they have counselors ready to go. You can meet with them. They also have a 24/7 hotline for you to call. So great services there. And last but not least, CFAR, Campus Center for Academic Resources, is staffed by faculty dedicated to your learning ability. So they're going to be the ones that can help you learn because a lot of people didn't really learn in high school. So they're going to be the ones that have access to study skills, flashcards, anything like that. And they're not a tutoring service, but they're a great point of contact to find a tutor for you. So really awesome resources in there. And your admissions counselor lives in that building 24/7.
Yes, the
7
most
days a week.
important people. Pat, what was the biggest change for you from high school to college, academically?
Academically, yeah. So it's kind of weird because school is just all the time. Because you wake up and you go to class and you have more classes, and then in between the classes you're doing work. So school never really ends, and so I think time management was the biggest difference for me.
I would agree. There's definitely something very different about the way that college is scheduled. So any way that you can successfully organize your time and do what works for you is always best.
Yes.
We don't have any questions in the chat right now. We have a few people on, someone interested in architecture and engineering. So we'll definitely be sure to point out a few of the academic buildings that they'll be around a little later in the tour. But if you want to start heading towards the gym and the Wildcat statue, go ahead.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so we're kind of on the northern side of campus, kind of. If you look up Smith Hall online, you can find a map. But we're gonna walk by what's called the Fishbowl. And it's this big grass pasture next to Smith Hall in front of Scott. And you notice that it curves down a little bit. And that's actually because it used to be the UNH hockey arena back before the Snively Arena was built. And even before our current arena, the Whittemore Center, was built. So a little fun fact about UNH. And then also, I'm a big fan of UNH housing. They've been buying more and more Adirondack chairs and picnic tables this year. So you'll notice them scattered around campus for students to use, especially during COVID, where people like to be outside and enjoying the fresh air outside of their rooms. A lot of the buildings that you're going to see in this area that we're walking through right now are all residential buildings. So that's Scott Hall. And then to the left is Congreve. And you can actually live in any of these buildings your freshman year. They're all mixed. So there's no class requirement to be in them. Each hall, not every single hall has a theme, but there's a bunch of halls that have themes. There's like a playhouse themed hall. If you like sports, they have like a volleyball court behind it and basketball courts behind it. So awesome themed halls throughout campus, and you can find your fit. I personally live in the honors dorm. That's also the College of Engineering and Physical Sciences building dorm as well. So you can definitely find people that like. It's really nice out, actually. I'm really digging the weather at the moment. It's a good, cool 50, 60, 62 maybe. I don't know, Laura, do you have the weather?
Yeah, I think when I checked this morning, it was like 56, which is
Okay.
ideal in my personal
All right.
opinion.
Okay.
No, you're definitely right. There's so many different options. I mean, just like in terms of numbers of buildings, of places that you can live, but also different lifestyles and different themes. I will put in the chat the UNH housing website so that you can explore all of the different options whenever you would like. They list every single dorm, they list them by theme, they list them by like different amenities. You can see who the hall director is in each dorm, and we'll be able to talk a little bit more about housing at the end of the tour as well.
Yes, we will. We'll get to housing in its full depth. But right now, we're kind of walking by by the Whittemore Center Arena, past the trees. Get a good look at it, because we'll talk about it a little bit later. But Hamel Rec is a beautiful space for all of our gym equipment and exercise classes. Oh, it's great. But we'll get to that later. So now we're kind of approaching the main street. It is called Main Street, but it's also the main street in Durham. It goes right through campus, and it's the busiest street. Right on the other side, we won't cross the street right now, but that is the T Hall lawn, especially when weather is a little warmer. People will lounge around on the T Hall lawn and do some studying outside. It's really nice. And now we're gonna cross and not get hit by a car. Okay. Let's see, where are we? Okay, so Hamel Rec is still to our right, and we're actually gonna pass New Hampshire Hall, which has actually a bunch of like ballet studios in there. And all the ballet classes are taught out of the New Hampshire Hall, as well as it's home to the kinesiology department as well. So
Yeah, there's a lot of really cool labs in there and stuff that are part of like the sports science program and the College of Health and Human Services. But you're right, there's like a huge rock climbing wall at the back, and there's like dance studios. And I feel like every time I walk by, I always hear a different type of music playing and like people shouting and stuff. It sounds pretty fun.
yes, yeah, I have a couple of friends who were like, take ballet with me next semester. I'm like, I'm not going to do that, but I appreciate the initiative. Laura, have you ever taken a ballet class?
I have not. My sister went to UNH and she took tap dance, which is something that I truly hope there is video footage of somewhere, but I've yet to see. But no, that would have been like a fine and performing arts credit for me. And I took my fine and performing arts when I was abroad. So I never ended up getting into dance. Good. All
right. We are now at the famous Wildcat Statue. So if you didn't know, we are the University of New Hampshire Wildcats. It's not a real cat, it's a fictional cat, but it's still our mascot, so we love them. But the nose is slightly discolored. That's because it's the tradition at UNH to rub the Wildcat nose for good luck. And I will do that right now. There we go. Good luck.
Good for finals week.
Exactly. And yeah, it's really the focal point of UNH pride here on campus. And right behind the Wildcat statue is a turf field used for lacrosse, but they also use it for intramural games. So we have about 30 intramural sports that you can be a part of and join. It's really low key. So you just kind of like pick up games like that. So soccer, badminton, ultimate frisbee, stuff like that. And there's also a bunch of club teams as well if you want the next level, but under D1, because right behind it is the Whittemore Center Arena, home to our D1 hockey team. They didn't do too hot this year, but our soccer team did do really hot this year, and they won the conference, and they were in the NCAA championships for the soccer program. In the Whittemore Center Arena, obviously our hockey team is out of there. You can also go to open skate, which they do every once in a while, where you can rent skates or bring your own and skate around the WIT, as we call it. It's also home to the Undergraduate Research Conference, which is one of the largest research conferences in the country for universities. So students like myself, actually this semester, I presented at the Sustainability Undergraduate Research Conference, and I audited the Intel Corporation and their sustainable practices. But it's one of the largest in the country for college undergraduate research conferences. So it's really exciting. And they also have all our concerts in the arena as well. So this Student Committee on Popular Entertainment, also known as SCOPE, will host their concerts in the arena as well, which is really exciting. They can bring some big names in there. And then right next to it that we saw earlier is the Hamel Rec Center, or Hamel Recreation Center, or Hamel Rec as everyone says it. 3 floors of gym equipment, cardio stuff, literally everything you can possibly think of. There's a suspended indoor track, an outdoor swimming pool right behind it. They do fitness classes, group classes. I've personally done Zumba and cycling. They also have like intermediate and beginner and advanced weightlifting classes if you want to learn from a professional. They also do personal training or semi-personal training. There's basketball courts. There's like squash courts, or not. The big glass, and then you like hit the ball against it, whatever that's called.
Squash. You're right.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you. Squash. And there's a bouldering wall. Really everything you possibly think of that's fitness related is in that building. And I highly recommend it. It's great. And it's all included in your tuition and fees as well for your admittance into the building. And then right behind us, you might be able to see it, but there's the UNH Dairy Bar down the street, the TAM building. So they serve ice cream, coffee, breakfast sandwiches, stuff like that. But it's also more importantly connected to the Amtrak station on campus. So you can take the train all the way up to Brunswick, Maine, or all the way down to Boston on the Amtrak Nor'easter line. So I personally have a friend who lives in Connecticut. So she'll take the train to Boston and Boston to Connecticut. But you can also go up to Maine for the weekend or down to Boston for a day. And it's super, super convenient because it's right on campus. UNH Transportation loves to say that we're in the middle of everywhere, and it really is true. We're really close to the ocean, we're close to Boston, we're close to the White Mountains, and I'm a big fan of the White Mountains. Definitely get out and go hiking. Over past the bridge, which we won't really get to, down the street, is the field house, the Wildcat Stadium. There's the swimming and exercise equipment for the D1 players in the field house, and then of course Wildcat Stadium. Our football games, pep band, marching band, anything that related. Graduation, commencement is coming up in Wildcat Stadium, which is really exciting. And then next to Wildcat Stadium is Boulder Field for all of our homecoming tailgates and stuff like that. And also the barns and all the UNH animals and dairy cows are down the street as well. So it's really, really exciting how far we are in science and research, but we also really have that solid focus of agriculture in our College of Tulsa, College of Life Sciences and Agriculture.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. Did I miss anything, Laura? Shall we continue?
No, keep going. You're doing great. I definitely agree. I think it's really nice that everything that you just mentioned is like walkable and isn't like the horse barns or the fields are a few miles off campus. They're really right on the edge. There's also right behind the fields. One of my favorite things that UNH has is College Woods, which is like 250 acres of preserved woodlands that you can go on a run in, you can go on a walk, you can just hang out. It also is used as lab space for some of our College of Life Science and Agriculture classes. So if you're taking a forestry class or even like an outdoor recreation course, you might have class out there in the woods, which is really fun. And it's really cool to have that sort of built in right to the edge of campus.
Yes, I'm a huge fan of College Woods too, Laura. Me and my friends, we like to go at least once a week. We go on a nature walk in College Woods. And then next semester, I'm also taking a wildlife ecology class that I heard was a great class. And I also do see people all the time in College Woods with their classes doing research, some independent research as well, and then just learning about species in the environment, because 250 acres of wildlife is an awesome opportunity for students at UNH.
Yeah, my roommate is a forestry major. And so I hear stories all the time about like different parts of College Woods and all the things that they have to go and find. And I think it's just so cool that that can be built right into the curriculum for all of those programs.
Yes. Yeah. So right now we're walking by Morrill Hall, which is home to our education department. And then we're also going to come up to James Hall. But UNH is an awesome size because of that. It's such a cohesive campus where you can walk to everything in like 10, 15 minutes, including the horse barns, including everything that normally kind of would be far away. It's awesome. And then College was awesome as well. It's right on campus. So you can really get anywhere and be any environment, which is awesome. Big fan, big fan. Such a beautiful day. Happy Saturday morning, everyone.
One of the last Saturdays of the semester, Pat, how are you feeling about your first year ending?
Oh, it's really sad. It's just like, it kind of just like became May. And I was like, oh no, the year's almost done. It's crazy. It's crazy. It goes by so fast. Even with COVID, I can't imagine without COVID, it'll go even faster, which is insane.
Right. I feel like April didn't really exist personally, at least this
No,
year for me. Somehow we
it did
went from
not.
like early March right into early May.
Yep. Laura, how are you feeling about graduation coming up?
I feel good. Definitely a little bit sad. It's super nostalgic to be around campus these days. I think even now, as you walk by T Hall, I'm sure you'll see people out there like taking their pictures, and it's sad to be wrapping up and to think about leaving, but it's also exciting. So it's a give and take.
Gotcha. So right now we're approaching James Hall. We're gonna hang out in the courtyard and talk a little bit about sustainability. And not a lot of campuses will talk about sustainability. They kind of like to shove it under the rug, pretend it's not there, like a lot of companies. And one of my favorite classes that I've ever taken so far, I've only taken 8 classes, but I'm gonna say this is my favorite one so far, is called Business for Planet, People, and Profit. And it's taught by Fiona Wilson, Professor Fiona Wilson, who's also the Chief Sustainability Officer at UNH. I don't think a lot of schools have their Chief Sustainability Officer, but UNH, we're really on the forefront of sustainability. That's how I'll start it. A lot of schools can't say that. There's only a couple other schools in the country that can come up to the par that we're in. So UNH is one of only 8 schools in the entire country that are rated platinum on the sustainability tracking and ranking system. So that measures sustainability initiatives, greenhouse gas emissions, initiatives on campus like bike share programs and stuff like that. And so we're rated platinum, one of only 8 in the country. And we were the 3rd university in the world to get that ranking, however long ago that was that we did. Right behind us, that beautiful white smokestack that you actually can't really see through the trees at this time in the year. But that's our cogeneration plant. So we actually have a partnership with Waste Management, and they have a landfill in Rochester, New Hampshire. And basically there's a big pipe that goes from Rochester, New Hampshire that feeds right into that building, and the methane is pumped from the landfill into the building, and it's turned into renewable natural compressed gas, and powers almost the entirety of our core campus and surrounding academic campus. And they also provide heat for surrounding buildings as well. So that was something like $45 million initiative back in 2007, I want to say. And so that's, and since I think the year 2000, our greenhouse gas emissions have dropped like 45%, mostly thanks to that big project, along with a lot of other initiatives. So a lot of our new buildings are LEED certified, which is just a green energy standard for how you build buildings and what materials you use. It's crazy. In my business class I was talking about earlier, business for planet, people, planet, and profit, we did a walking tour of UNH actually, and we talked about all the buildings and all the initiatives that we're doing. And so big fan. All the cooking oils in the dining halls are turned into biofuel for our bus system. And our bus system is one of the largest public transit systems in the state of New Hampshire as well. And I should have mentioned that earlier, that our buses actually go around campus like a typical school, but we also have routes out to Portsmouth, Newmarket, and Dover. So you can get out of campus and get out to some other cities and towns if you want to get a bite to eat that's not in Durham. Yeah, and in the sustainability department, there's a bunch of different majors and minors. So I'm actually considering, or actually I'm going to be applying into the dual major of sustainability. I'm a computer science major, but the sustainability is such an interesting part of our society right now. So I'm really excited to learn about that and get a dual major in it. There's also minors, and there's also internship programs through the Sustainability Institute. You can go out to Boston for a semester, or go out to Boston for the summer and intern and get credits for UNH and get a really good portfolio of sustainability work. So that's a lot of information. How are we doing, Laura?
You're good. You're good. There's no questions in the chat right now, but I think you did a great job explaining it. It's definitely something that is a big piece of UNH's culture and academics and just like daily life, from a really big like macro level, like cogen and how we're powered, down to like the individual level of what the dining hall does and like how people live their everyday lives. So I think you did a great job explaining it. The people that we've had drop their majors in the chat are interested in engineering, maybe architecture, or like marine biology and engineering. So as you walk by, would you mind just maybe popping a little bit over towards Spalding and Rudman to show off some of more of the Colsa buildings and point out where Kingsbury is?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, so right now as we get down there, to the right is Hewitt Hall, which is home to the College of Health and Human Services. They have a big recreation management and policy program, which is super interesting. Not a lot of schools have that, but I'm a big fan of that program. Also to our left, as we're gonna pass it, is Demerit Hall. This is home to the physics department. I actually have a statistics class in there right now. So engineering majors, you might spend some time in there doing physics. And then down here is the Spalding Hall, which is, and Rudman Hall to the left down the street. Those are for our life science programs. So I know Rudman is primarily lab space for life sciences, and Spalding similar, also in the life science department. Laura, I don't know if you know a bit more information.
Yeah, the other thing to mention about Spalding is that it's currently getting like an $80+ million renovation right now. So if you're someone who's interested in biology and life sciences, genetics, really any kind of like even biomedical science, UNH in the next year or so will have some of the most state-of-the-art lab spaces available to students in New England. So definitely something to consider. It's going to be an awesome space. Right now they're building off the back and then they're going to renovate up through the front, but I'm really excited to see that when it's all completed. And then also just down past Spalding and Rudman, if Pat were to be able to like transcend through the trees behind him, you would be right at Kingsbury Hall, which is home to our engineering programs. And Kingsbury is one of my favorite buildings on campus. I am a liberal arts student. I have 2 majors in COLA and a minor in COLA, but I still love studying in Kingsbury, just walking through. There's a great library in there and a ton of really cool lab spaces. Maybe Pat could even share more about Kingsbury because he is likely to have spent more time in there than me.
Yes, Laura, I can share a bit more about Kingsbury. So I am a computer science student, so I do have some classes in Kingsbury. I am a fan of the building. It's a really interesting building. It's kind of unique compared to a lot of the other traditional buildings on campus, but it's very industrial and great facilities for our engineering students and computer science students. But my biggest I love the Kingsbury Library. So there's actually 4 libraries on campus. One is in Kingsbury Hall for the mathematics and engineering library. There's also the Demerit physics library that we actually just walked by. And then the third is in Parsons Hall, which is the chemistry library. And right behind me is Diamond Library. So this is the main library on campus. All the other ones are like academic focused in the department and just a portion of a building. But this is all just one big library. Super interesting. It actually looks kind of small, but you actually walk in on the third floor. So there's 2 floors below you, 2 floors above you, for all sorts of different study spaces. And there's a ton of books, like 1 million books. It's kind of crazy. But we're not like some other schools where it's like the higher you go, the quieter it is. No, we have some quiet rooms where you have to be quiet, but everywhere else is kind of a free for all. I'm a big fan of like desk space. So there's a bunch of big tables where you can take up as much room as you want. But there's also some like cubicles if you really want to get going on the studying. But there's also like couches, and literally every single form of sitting you can think of is in that building. So you'll find your space for sure. There's also a cafe on the 4th floor. It's called Zeke's Cafe. It's not open right now, but it hopefully will be open in the fall once we get back to normal-ish, which is exciting. A lot of schools are like, don't eat in the library. You can eat in the library, you just can't eat in the quiet rooms because it's too loud. But I also am a fan of the quiet rooms. It's kind of intimidating, but if you want to sit down and really work on an essay, that's the place to go. You're kind of forced to do your work. Everyone's going to judge you if you're like not doing your work. Also in the library is the Conor Writing Center, which is staffed by UNH students. So if you struggle with writing, I don't really do a lot of essays as I'm a computer science major, but if you are struggling with essays or need some help, there are students that are staffed in the Conor Writing Center that can help you out, give you critiques, walk you through the process. If you're struggling with thesis statements, I feel like everyone relearns thesis statements over and over again and then still doesn't get it. It's a good place to go for sure. They're experts. And there's also more experts that are not students. All of the librarians are incredible people. There's librarians for each like department and major. So if you're doing a research project, even in the business school, there's this business school librarian that's out of the Diamond Library. So great services there. There's also like the IT support desk in there. There's a bunch of student collaboration classrooms and spaces that you can rent out and do some work with students. And that's pretty much it. I mean, everything that you could possibly think of a library is in that library.
Yeah, you're definitely right. No, I'm a big fan of the Connor's Writing Center and academic technology specifically. I feel like I'm pretty good at tech, but inevitably every year something comes up that I just have no ability to do. And every time I go or every time I call them, they're so helpful and it's so easy. And then the Connor's Writing Center, I think everybody is going to have to get through like English 401 unless you place out of it with an AP. And so if writing isn't your thing and that sort of first step of writing seems intimidating, the Connor's Writing Center is absolutely the best place to stop in and get a little bit of support and help.
Absolutely. I in the business for planning people and profit, I keep bringing it up because it's such a good class. But we are currently writing research papers on different companies and their sustainability practices. So I'm doing mine on Intel. I had the presentation, Undergraduate Research Conference. We're also writing a 20-page research paper on the company. So it's really daunting, but we had the business librarian come in, explain the process, talk about it's the great services of the library. They also do Basel free.
Yes. Sorry to interrupt. You just cut out there for a second. So as you keep walking, could you the business librarian came into class and could you tell us what it is that she offered?
Yeah, so she did some great gave us some great resources. So citations and where to find information, because this was like really the first business class I've ever taken. So she explained how to find a company, how to research a company, what services we have, what databases we have, because there are subscriptions that you can't get unless you pay like $1,000 a year through the library. So it's fantastic. All the librarians are really helpful. And then on top of that, they also host like Frazzle pre-finals. The library department does a lot of I'm advocacy and workshops and programs for students. So I know a big thing that normally happens is called the primal scream. So there's like 3 floors of like staircase in the lobby. And so everyone will enter the lobby and then they'll count down from 10 and then everyone screams at the same time. And it's super loud and crazy. and apparently it's like the loudest thing you've ever heard in your life. And so now we're walking right in front of T Hall and the T Hall lawn, which is also known as the Great Lawn, actually. And there's a bunch of graduates getting their pictures taken, or soon to be graduates, I should say. So happy graduation, everyone. Very, very exciting.
Yes, it's coming up fast. T Hall is definitely the classic graduation picture location. So I'm sure it'll be busy for the next couple weeks.
Yes, yes. And if you ever come to the campus and right around when the hour strikes, the bells will play, especially like 11 a.m. They play like a little tune. I love hearing the bells. It really makes me feel like I'm actually at college taking classes.
Yeah, my personal favorite is when it plays the Harry Potter theme. I don't know why, it just makes me feel a little bit like I'm at Hogwarts, and it's very satisfying. And you're totally right. It's always like a song at about 11 a.m. or sometimes later in the afternoon.
Yes, I'm a huge fan of the Harry Potter one too, Laura. It's like a remix though, because it's not exactly the Harry Potter theme, but it is the theme. But like they just like remix it a little bit with the bells.
Yeah, all of those are actually put together by a professor in our music department. And one of my best friends is a music performance major, and he got to go with him at some point and like put together some of the songs like to be played this year. And he said it was so cool. So it's something that happens right on campus. And I think that's why sometimes it's not an exact like copy of whatever the original song is.
That's awesome. That's so cool. All right. So we're heading up to Hamilton Smith Hall, which is home to the College of Liberal Arts. We're going to talk a little bit about academics and what you can expect here at UNH. So if you're a COLA major, English, philosophy, psychology, stuff like that, you might spend a lot of time in here. I had a statistics class in this semester for one day in this building. The classrooms were gorgeous. Highly recommend. They also have some study spaces in the lobby as well. Anyway, right now my biggest class that I'm taking is statistics. I just mentioned there's about 80 people in that class. My biggest class of all time was last year in Calculus 2. There's about 120 kids in my class. And so those intro classes, we start at the 400 level. So like, like the classic like 101, that's our 401. So we start at 400 and go up. So those 400 classes are going to be like the big lecture style classes. But when you have those big lectures, like my statistics class or my Calculus 2 class that I had, basically the setup typically is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you have a lecture with all the students, and the teacher or the professor just kind of gives you all the information. And then Tuesday and Thursday, you'll have like a recitation or a lab, and you'll break out into small groups with TAs throughout the day and go over the information. And that's usually capped at like 20, 25 people. So you can really understand the information and ask questions that you wouldn't really be able to in a lecture style. But as you get older and you progress and you take more niche classes, a lot more specific and narrow, that's when your class size is going to start dropping. So the smallest class I've taken so far is my business class I was talking about over and over again, and that's capped at 20 people. So there's a bunch of variety, especially if you're in kind of a niche major. You'll definitely get some awesome classes, and you'll be able to really work with the professor. And a lot of professors will do research, and you can ask them to do research with them or ask them questions, and they're great for guidance. In terms of like required classes, of course, you're going to have the requirements for your major. So like I had to take calculus, not a fan of calculus, but I had to take it for my major. Statistics, same thing. But I also took my business class and I took a philosophy class. And that's more of the discovery side. So we have the general education requirements like every school does. We call them discoveries. So there's like 8 or so categories of discoveries that you have to get throughout your time here at UNH. So there's different categories like world cultures, historical perspectives, biological science with a lab, physical science with a lab, stuff like that. And so any AP credit or college credit will count towards that. Otherwise, you're welcome to take any of the classes. And if you're not like a physics fan, you can take other things that are not physics that will satisfy like that physics-ish requirement. So all sorts of options. And if you're not interested in studying at UNH, you can go abroad. You can also go abroad domestically if you want to study a different city. But Laura, I know you studied in Budapest. You want to talk a little bit about that program?
Yeah, I did. So that was a UNH managed program, which means that I actually got to travel with other UNH students and a UNH professor. So it was run through the Justice Studies Department, which is my second major, and it was focused on like comparative justice systems. So we looked at the history of like law in Eastern Europe, Central Europe, Western Europe, and also the United States. And I loved that. So that was last spring. And I actually also did last fall, I did one of the domestic like study away programs. I went to DC for the semester to do a full-time internship. So I'm a big fan of both options. I think they both have really, really awesome things that you get out of them. From my internship, I got a ton of professional skills and connections, and also just the opportunity to live in a US city and sort of feel like I was a working adult, and then still get to come back to campus the year after and be a college student all over again. So I'm a big fan of both.
Awesome. I'm so excited to go study abroad someday, Laura. I don't know where I'm going to go, but I'm going to go somewhere. I should say that all the professors are required to have office hours. That's built into their contract. And if you can't make their office hours, you can reach out to them, and they're super flexible with when they can meet, because they really do care about the students. They want to fail people, because you do course evaluations. And if they get bad evaluations, bad things happen to
Pat, I don't know if you can hear me, but you cut out for another second
like,
there.
I'm sorry, what was that, Laura?
You had just cut out for a second. I just want to
Gotcha.
let you know, we lost you sort of at the corner.
Okay. Yeah, office hours, professors, TAs, but there's also the campus departments, like the Center for Academic Resources, that can help you out and find you some resources you, as well as like the Dean of Students in their offices, and of course, program, which stands for Career Professional Success. So we talk a lot about life after high school, and now we are talking about life after college, and that can be really daunting for a lot of people. So there's the Career Professional Success program, which is staffed by faculty, are trained, and know what resumes are, and know what cover letters are, so they can help you out, and they do mock interviews, and they can help you really get a good resume out to your future employers. And then within that, you also, in your own department, they have their own career team. So I'm in the College of Engineering and Physical Sciences, and they have their own career team as well. So they send me weekly emails about internship opportunities and job opportunities, as well as contact information if I want to set up a meeting with them. So there's a bunch of resources for your life after college. Oh, so scary.
Yeah.
So scary.
I think the fact that CAPS has offices in all 5 colleges is such an underrated benefit of being at UNH. Because I'm sure, like for me in the College of Liberal Arts, my CAPS experience is much different than yours. But even now, as a graduating senior, I'm in the interview process with different jobs, and I feel like I feel like the people in CAPS want to stop hearing from me. I email them all the time. I do mock interviews with them. We've gone over like resumes and cover letters. They'll help you prep for like salary negotiations, and all of this maybe sounds a little bit intimidating for people who are looking at college, but just know that I also used CAPS just as avidly when I was applying to the Washington Center program as a sophomore, and I had to submit a resume and looking at summer internships. So it's definitely a great place to be aware of and be in touch with right from the start on campus.
Yes, absolutely. And I should also talk about the advisor program. So you'll have your own advisor through your department. So my advisor is Radim Bartos. He's actually the chair of the computer science department. So I've met with him a bunch to pick out my classes for the next semester to make sure that we're on track. And they're also the people to go to if you want to go study abroad. And you can start planning that now and be like, okay, I want to study abroad second semester of my junior year. What do I need to take now to let me be able to study abroad? Because they don't have all the same classes in Italy as they do on UNH campus. So they're a great resource as well. You can schedule meetings with them similarly to the CAPS program.
That's
So
very
we're
true.
kind of
I will shamelessly plug on this YouTube account. Just on Thursday, we did a study abroad Q&A, and we had a few students who have studied abroad in different programs, as well as one of the study abroad advisors on. So if that's something you're really interested in, definitely check that out. We talked a lot about figuring out what program is right for you and what all of your different options are, the benefits of studying abroad. So there's a lot of resources right on this website if you're curious.
Gotcha. Yeah, awesome. And you might be a little confused why we just walk through the woods. We do go to school in the woods. We actually are hunter and gatherers. So every Friday we go out and pick the berries. Sorry. So right through campus, there's actually a brook called College Brook. And there's forests that go along with that. So we actually have a strip of forest that goes through UNH campus. So it kind of gets you some fresh air. It's really nice. It's really relaxing. You can hear the birds in the background, hopefully. A nice spring day, as they say. But we're also right now on the backside of the Memorial Union building. So this is the living room of campus, the student center. And it's such a big building because it's also connected to Holloway Commons, which is one of our 3 dining halls. But this building is absolutely enormous. The student government offices are in there. The Beauregard Center is in there, and the Beauregard Center is named after Albani Beauregard. She passed away in 2018. She was a student, and she worked a lot in our cultural expression and diversity initiatives. And so the center was named after her, and it's a safe zone for students who are underrepresented or need a safe place to hang out with their friends. And because we are not a racially diverse school, we are in the second whitest state in the country, and so we do have resources on campus and through administration that can act as a safe place for students who feel underrepresented. Also in the Memorial Union building is 2 event spaces, the Stratford Room and the Granite State Room. And so they have like bingo in there. The Campus Activities Board has bingo. They also do trivia, and they have like thousands of dollars worth of prizes every time. So it's a really big deal. But they also, right now, they're using it for our like live stream concerts. I know the Mask and Dagger, that our drama society, is using one of those spaces for their show that actually opened last night online. So that's really exciting. There's also the mailroom. There's a food court. The Rockingham Lounge is my personal favorite place in the building. It has a nice little fireplace. You can click the on switch, and it's a fireplace, and you can feel nice and cozy, get a nice view of the wilderness outside. Really, really great lounge to do some work. There's also the games room. So if you're a big fan of pool, they have pool, but they also have video games. And there's a bunch of meeting spaces for student orgs and all the student org offices. There's so much stuff in this building. It's crazy. There's an entertainment center on the bottom floor, which I think is super cool. It's like the stage, kind of like a stand-up comedy stage. I'm a big fan. I think that covered it. Laura, did I miss anything?
No, I don't think so. That's great. I think it's impossible to cover it, honestly. There's just so much that goes on in there, and just the sheer amount of student clubs and organizations makes it really, really challenging to touch on all of it in like 5 minutes.
Yes. I'm a huge fan of our student organizations. We have over 250, and I work a lot with student org. That's basically my day-to-day job on campus as the Student Activity Fee Committee outreach coordinator, and also now sitting on the Memorial Union Board of Governors. That is the student body that oversees the Memorial Union building and all the student activities. So there's a lot going on in there, and all the student org offices. There's a lot of student org offices. Many org offices, like it's unusual for a university to have this many. So the student program is awesome though. It's awesome. Big fan. And so we're kind of on the other edge of campus. So you can kind of see a little bit of downtown through the trees there. And so this is kind of like the, I guess, east-ish side of campus. And so we're kind of getting back into civilization from the woods. And this is Mills Hall to the right, one of 27 residential halls on campus. Typically upperclassmen live there. There's not an age requirement, but it's really hard to get in as a freshman because it's mostly houses 5 to 9 person suites. So they have like their own common room. And then they also share a bathroom or even two bathrooms with other people. So it's very hard to get into. It's very prestigious to get into that building. But I'll actually be living on this side of campus in New Quad, which is behind the mills is a courtyard called New Quad. And I'm actually living in Fairchild next year, which is right across from the mills. But this is we're on the side of the Memorial Union building right now. And I was actually I was going through the student government like files. We have a filing cabinet. And I think they actually 2001 she's a vast on this hill. I don't see it anymore. It was a big deal about it. So, all right. Yes. Let's see. Hallway Commons. So Memorial Union building is on the left. Hallway Commons. I'll talk a little bit about dining later, but just pointed out is a really quaint college, like New England, super nice, and it's a really safe environment. I go running at like 8 o'clock at night and I don't see anyone. It's pitch black, but it's such a vibe. So it's very different from a city atmosphere where you're kind of like, hope I don't get mugged. But Durham is an awesome town, and they're really supportive of their college students. And you get a little peek of downtown Durham. And there's a bunch of coffee shops, restaurants. Like Hop and Grind is like the burger place to be. Really good American food there, but very quaint, humble, small town vibes here. And yeah, it reminds me of my small town. I'm from Maynard, Massachusetts, so super tiny, probably never heard of it. And it kind of reminds me of home for sure. Especially with the one-way roads to downtown, that's exactly how my town has it.
We have a couple questions in the chat, sort of touching back on the Beauregard Center and diversity. Someone asked if UNH actively recruits for diversity. I can say that we have a lot of scholarships and programs specifically available for underrepresented groups on campus. One of the big ones is Connect, which is part of our pre-orientation programming. So first generation students, students of color, any underrepresented group can participate, and you get to meet with other students and faculty on campus, and you sort of get to build a community before you even step foot for your first like big day on campus like everybody else, which I think is a huge benefit. I have friends in the program and they've stuck with it for 4 years and are now leaders in it and give back. And it's a really amazing thing. And to the other question about instances of racial violence, it's really hard to say. I don't recall any violent acts based on race in my time at UNH, but UNH also by federal law is part of the Clery Act, or follows the Clery Act, which means that we publish all of our crime statistics yearly in a large report. So I'll drop that in the chat. And if you would like any further clarification on specific instances or any additional resources, please continue to ask those questions because I'm happy to give more information.
Yeah, absolutely, Laura. That's yeah, great points. Also, there's the university and the president James Dean put out statements, of course, over the summer and throughout the year about racial violence. There's also initiatives, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives that his office has put out and has promised to uphold the initiative. So definitely look at those up because there's great programs through there. And this is also the first year of Nadine Petty, who is the Chief Diversity Officer at UNH. She started in July, I want to say. So I'm definitely moving in the right direction for sure. Right behind us is Health and Wellness. This is the doctor's office on campus. So you can really treat it like your doctor's office. They do checkups, they do testing, walk-in clinics, stuff like that. They also have like massage therapy, meditation. They also do a lot of workshops and advocacy around health and mental health, along with that's going to be also under the psychological and counseling services as well. But there's a lot of initiatives through there. Right next to it is Wolf House. That houses the SHARP, which stands for the Sexual Harassment and Rape Prevention Program. And so this is different from like the Title IX office that you'll see at schools. that investigate reports of bias and rape and sexual assault and that kind of jazz. But in Sharp, they're staffed with counselors that are there to help you and victims. And so they're there as crisis counselors, and it's purely confidential. They cannot give any information to any university department or other faculty member that asks. So it's really between you and them. And they don't investigate reports, but if you want a report to be investigated, they can help you through the Title IX process through the university, but they're to help you go through grievance and as a victim. So yeah, we move on. So we're gonna approach the Peter T. Paul College of Business and Economics. This is one of the newest academic buildings on campus. It is absolutely gorgeous. I have my business class in there. I think it's probably the fourth or fifth time I mentioned that class. But I love going to the class. It's all in person. And so I'm in there every Tuesday and Thursday. And campus, we have a lot of business students. The Paul College is ranked as one of the best in the country for public schools. So definitely look at those statistics. They're really interesting.
Yeah. Paul has awesome classes. Last night, I just feel like I have to share because I was there for like 7 hours. I spent most of my evening yesterday in Paul doing homework and working on final papers with some of my friends. Perhaps not the most exciting Friday night, but when you get to this point in the semester, there's always a lot to be done. And Paul has great study spaces and breakout rooms. So it's one of my favorite buildings, kind of like Kingsbury, even though I don't spend much time in there for classes. Pat, we have a great question in the chat about what their classes were live, virtual, or both this semester, and what our expectations are for the fall.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the fall, I was a freshman in the fall, so I couldn't really pick my classes that much. So I was kind of didn't really know exactly how the classes were going to pan out in terms of live or in person. But right now, about half of my classes are in person, half of them are online. So it totally depends per class. So I have some classes where the lectures are in person, but the labs are online, or the labs are online, or labs are in person, the lectures online. So it totally depends on the class. And going into second semester, we all knew we could pick the classes that we wanted. And some sections were online, some sections were in person, so you could choose which one you wanted. And then we also get tested twice a week. Our cases are it's so low, it's crazy. But so yeah, COVID twice a week. So our cases have dropped because of that. And then also the vaccination clinic, we're all vaccinated, or everyone had the opportunity to be vaccinated as well. But in the fall, President James Dean, you can read his statement about it. He says, kind of vague, but he plans to be back to almost normal. No one really knows exactly what that means, but you can look up his statement about that if you're interested. We are right behind, or right in front of, Sawyer Hall. This is actually one of the smallest residential halls on campus, next to one of the largest residential halls on campus, which you can't really see through the trees, but that is Stoke Hall, which is home to around 600, 700 students. And Sawyer Hall is more like 150 students. So you really get to choose where you want to live and what kind of vibe you want to live in. So Sawyer is going to be a lot quieter than Stoke just because of the size. But there's 25 other residential halls on campus. There's 4 that are dedicated just to freshmen. That's Christensen and Williamston. There's the 2 iconic twin freshman halls. And there's also Alexander and I want to say Lord that are much smaller freshman halls if you want a quieter freshman vibe. So that's one of the crazy things is that each hall is very different from one another. So there's the themed halls. So if you're interested in sports, Gibbs Hall is the playhouse, and they have some sports courts behind it to go with the theme. There's a bunch of other themes like that around major and interest. So definitely look those up if you're interested in living with people that are like-minded and have similar interests. All the halls are swipe access. We don't have security guards or anything, but you can only swipe into your hall. And so there's also, for safety reasons, we have 2 police departments that have jurisdiction over campus. That's the Durham Police as well as UNH Police. They're both highly accredited. The UNH Police actually has a therapy dog, or service dog, therapy dog, one of the two, named Charlie. And she goes around and says hi to students all the time. Big fan. Also, around campus, you'll be seeing blue lights similar to a bunch of other campuses. So if you're ever in an emergency and you don't have your phone, or you just want to click the button, there's a big red button on the emergency blue lights. And UNH Police or Durham Police will be there in 90 seconds. And so far, really, I've never heard of anyone using it. Durham as a city or town, I should say, and the UNH campus is one of the safest campuses in the country. I was doing research a couple weeks ago on it, and so it put us at number 6 a couple years ago. So this is a really, really safe campus, and I love being here all the time. Dining. So there's 3 dining halls on campus: Stillings, Holloway Commons, and Philbrook. But actually behind Sawyer is Stillings Hall. And then we had seen Holloway Commons earlier, and then Philbrook Dining Hall is on the far side of campus. They're all great, great dining halls. I actually rarely eat out because the food is so good on campus. UNH Dining loves to say that they're award winning, and I believe them because the food is so good. Whenever they have like clam chowder or seafood chowder, I always get it because it's literally like mostly seafood. Like there's a lot of clams and like full shrimp in there. So good. They also have like grilled cheese bars. If you had like a poke bowl, which is like sushi in a bowl, like they have that, and you can like customize it to the ingredients that you want. They have like Sunday bars. The chicken parm is my favorite food, actually. That's number 1. All the food plans are unlimited swipes. So as a freshman, you don't have to worry about if you're choosing between 7 swipes a week or 14 swipes a week, 21 swipes a week. I think that's weird and messed up from other schools. But everything's unlimited for all of our campus plans. And then the only differences are like dining dollars and other stuff that you need to worry about right now. But you can go in as many times as you want in a day. And the food is so good. I'm gonna talk about it forever.
Yeah, talk about being sad about graduating. I think I'm sad about not having access to UNH's food and snacks and all the different coffee places. And I will surely miss all of that. We just have about 3 or 4 minutes left. So I don't know if there's anything else to add about housing. If anybody has any last minute questions, please drop them in the chat. I apologize in advance for all of the links that I've been putting in the chat. Hopefully they're at least somewhat helpful. I did put President Dean's statement on opening for the fall in there, so you can read through that. We are looking forward to having in-person classes. There will likely still be some like modifications in place, whether it be masks or social distancing, but we will be back on campus. We were on campus all year this year with 60 to 70% of our classes in person. So I think, as Pat said, we've managed to do a pretty good job for this size campus throughout the entire year, which I've been very grateful for.
Yes,
go ahead, Pat.
I was just going to say that I kind of miss this about the residential halls. Each one has a residential hall director, RHD. My RHD is Tyler. He lives on the ground floor and manages all of the RAs, and he puts on socials and makes sure everyone's doing good. Welfare and mental health are a big thing right now, and I'm very appreciative of all the residential staff and all the RAs right now. They're also going through it, so shout out to them.
Definitely. They have such a huge role on campus. All right. Well, we have just a minute left. My last question for you, Pat, is what you are most excited to be able to do next year and why you're most excited to come back in the fall.
Oh, that's like such a good question. There's so many things, but I'm going to say U Day, like University Day, U Day. So it's like a day in the fall where all the student orgs gather on T Hall lawn. And they do like recruitment, but there's also so many fun activities and free merch. And as a freshman, it was like online this year. It was really upsetting. I'm just so excited to see all the student orgs and everyone come together for one of the first weeks. And they are planning it right now to have it in person. It might be a bit more spread out than usual, but I'm really excited about that.
Awesome. Well, with that, we will sign off. And thank you so much, Pat, for doing the hard work and bringing us all around campus. If anybody has any more questions, please reach out to Undergraduate Admissions. You can find them on social media at BUNH Wildcat. You can see this YouTube account, or you can always go to their website, send an email, use the chat feature, give us a call, but we'd be happy to chat with you. So thank you again, Pat.
Thank you, Laura. Have a good day.
Bye, everyone.